Hi everyone, I hope this video finds everybody safe and healthy at home right now. I know we are all missing baseball right now, and we're going to do our part to try and bring it to you, perhaps in a little bit of a different way right now. We're doing everything in a different way right now, so the baseball is absolutely on that page. But before we get to what we've got in this video, I want to take a second to just give my absolute heartfelt thanks to everybody out there on the front lines right now, everybody that is keeping us safe, everybody that is keeping us healthy, everybody that is keeping us fed, the doctors, the nurses, to the maintenance crews at the hospitals, the paramedics, the firemen, law enforcement, the grocery store workers, the supply chain workers, everybody who's delivering food, and everybody that's doing everything they can just to help out a neighbor or a relative. All of that is just so important right now, and you have my heart right now. You have my love. I cannot say enough for the amount of sacrifices that people are making right now. Bottom line is we're all doing this together. We're all in this together, and we will all come out of this together. I cannot wait till we come out of this together and hopefully honor all of these people together at a baseball game. I think that'll be an incredible day when we get there. We're a ways off, it would appear, but we will get there. There will be baseball. There has always been baseball. There will be baseball again. So in the interim, and you look at, we don't have baseball. What do we do right now? Well, we're actually pretty good at this. We do this every off season. This isn't hot stove season because there will be no trades. Jerry Dipoto will not be making trades. He will not be signing free agents. That's not allowed right now. But that doesn't mean that the discussions that we have go away. That doesn't mean that we can't look at things in different ways, that we can't research things, that we can't find out more about players, that we can't hear more stories, that we can't perhaps learn a little bit more about the game that has really gone through a lot of change in the last few years. On the flip side, we can learn more about the history as well. I'm going to try and bring you all of those things in these videos and stories and podcasts. I've got a ton of fun ideas of things that we can do over the next how many weeks and until we are again talking about actual baseball on the field. Now, some of these things you've probably already seen online. Some of them have not been put online yet, but I will continue to do things on a daily basis on mynorthwest.com and 710sports.com, and then I'll put it all together in video form that will probably have a little bit of bonus, and in podcast form as well. So this is video 1 and podcast number 1. We will hear from Boy Howdy at some point. He's not here right now, obviously. He's got his home. He does not live on my sofa here. He's at his home with his beautiful family, and he's helping keeping things go at 710 ESPN right now, but we will have him stop by on a podcast in the not too distant future. He's got a spring training story. He had the most epic spring training. Wow, my hands look weird when you do that. I've got giant hands. This is new. He had the most epic spring training planned, his first trip there with his dad, and he got there at the worst possible moment. But we'll hear a little bit more about that. Coming up on this video today, you will, if you haven't seen it already, you'll see the Mitch Haniger video. Just real quick, I just wanted to let people know why I picked Mitch for the first video. He's somebody that's had baseball taken away from him. He has, through injury, not been able to go out in the field, and that's something that's hard to deal with. I wanted to hear how he dealt with that. We're all going through something sort of like that right now. He's very process-oriented, and I wanted to hear his perspective on it. He talks quite a bit about meditation, as opposed to medication, meditation, and has some places that you can go online if that's something that you want to get into. And it's not a huge commitment. It's a few minutes every day, and it helps center him. It helps get him on the right path. And I think with the increased stress that we have in our lives right now, might not be a bad thing. So I wanted to talk to him about that as well. We also have a really good talk on robo-umps. He liked a tweet that I put out earlier this off season about really not liking robo-umps because of what I saw it doing to the catcher position. Most fascinating position on the field. It's going to absolutely obliterate it, in my opinion. I was really surprised he liked that tweet. He'll get into that a little bit more. One addition on that note is, we didn't get into this, but he talked about the younger umpires being pretty darn good right now. I've spoken with a number of umpires in the off season, and it really strikes me that this is no longer your C.B. Buckners, your Cowboy Joes, and Angel Hernandez's. This group is much younger right now, and they kind of approach what they do in a similar fashion to what you see the ball players do, I think. They're a little bit more analytical. They're really into their own numbers. They take pride in their ratings, and the conversations were really eye-opening. Another thing, we're talking about a handful of pitches a game, like 3 or 4. One umpire, and I have not been able to verify this, told me that the best young pitch callers right now might not miss 2. They're averaging under 2 pitches a game. So to see what this is going to do to catching, is it really worth 2 to 3 pitches? The umpires are getting better. Why not give them that shot to continue? I don't know. Interesting conversation with Mitch. We also catch up with Matt Magill, and this I have not put out on other places online yet. But Matt Magill, of course, acquired last year, picked up off of waivers, I believe, from the Twins. Really earned Scout Service's trust at the end of ball games. He had 5 saves. He was getting the ball late in games. And I wanted to get a little bit more on him other than the story that you might have heard this. His nickname with, I want to say, the Cardinals was Goose. He named his son Maverick. And yes, Top Gun is involved. We will get into that. We will also get into just his remarkable baseball story. He was a 31st round pick. And his story is not only about perseverance, but just sheer determination. He did some pretty extraordinary things when people told him no. And I thought that was a story that people would enjoy, and maybe look at him a little bit differently when you see him out on the field. Great story from Matt Magill. We also hear my conversation with Melanie LeGrande, and if you have kids that are grade 3 through 5 or know anybody who has kids that are grade 3 through 5 and they're struggling with the homeschooling, MLB has got a program for them. It's their Summer Slugger program, and the whole idea it's been shown that kids can lose up to 2.5 months of their learning over the summer. So Major League Baseball teamed up with an educational technology company and came up with a program to help get them through the summer. There are 36 different lessons in this, possibly perfect for what's going on right now. We'll hear more about that from Melanie LeGrande, Vice President of Social Responsibility for MLB. Last but definitely not least, we catch up with Gary Hill. I will be checking in with the broadcasters. He talks about, he is the one who went and found all these classic games that you're hearing on 710 Sports at night right now. So he's going to get into that process and why he picked some games. Also talk a little bit about where he sees this going, not as so much in when it gets going, but how's it going to impact? It's going to be a shorter season. What's that going to look like in the history of the game? What could we see in a shorter season? Just an interesting conversation with Gary. They always are with Gary, but most importantly, he gives us the Aaron Goldsmith hair update. Aaron Goldsmith has not had a haircut since he left spring training, and I believe he planned on getting one right before opening day, so he is well overdue right now. This is something I believe we are going to need to track throughout this kind of baseball pause that we're in right now. So all of that coming up in the video, and as I mentioned, we are going to do this on a weekly, possibly a bi-weekly basis. There's a lot we can get into. I've got some fun things planned with some players. We're going to talk to some people, some media members from other teams, going to learn a little bit more about the competition, hoping to talk to some people from the front office and to get into some things, some number type things. Just a lot that we can cover in this time. But for now, hope you enjoyed the video today. Hope you have a great weekend. Hope everybody is, again, staying home, staying safe, and we will get back together sometime soon and enjoy some baseball. Here's the video. Okay, Gary, so good to see you. I'll even reluctantly say it's good to see the off-season beard, or now the spring training beard, now the quarantine beard, I guess. It adapts.
Yeah, it's very adaptable. Hopefully it'll be a regular season beard at some point. I guess we'll see.
I am looking forward to the regular season beard. And we were just talking, you are also, I'm sorry for all this abuse. It's been a while. You're responsible for the haircut too.
Yeah, because going to spring training, we're there for a while, right? And you have to have a hair game plan. And mine is you cut it short before you go. You let it grow. You're in need of a haircut when you get back. And unfortunately, I couldn't go anywhere when I got back. So, I took matters in my own hands. I'm now cutting my own hair, which I didn't do again after high school, but here we are. This is happening.
At some point, I'm going to have to cut my bangs, and it will be tragic. So you can make fun of me when that happens, okay? We will all be on equal footing right here.
You do it live. Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Oh, I'm sure everybody would tune in to see that. That would be just fantastic. Hey, I'm sorry we are meeting under these circumstances. Like the beard, we are adaptable.
Yeah.
I think obviously you've never seen anything like this, but what was it like for you that last week of spring training?
bizarre. Bizarre is the word. And, as we were kind of going through the games, you just got a feeling where it was all headed when you talk to people back home, talking with Mary and the family and seeing where it was all headed. It was so bizarre. And I remember that last game just kind of sitting there thinking, is this going to be our last game for a while? Really not knowing what was going to happen. There's just so much uncertainty. And then all of a sudden, spring training is canceled, and here we are. I mean, we're making plans to get back home, and just, I don't know, it was so surreal, and it still kind of is in a weird way. I mean, baseball has been so consistent through history, through time. It's marked the time, and it's part of the past, it's part of our future, it's part of our present, and something so consistent, and especially in the summer months, something that we all rely on. And just to have that sudden stoppage, it was startling, and it's hard to get used to. That's for sure.
One of the things that you have helped out with greatly is you put together the program of games that we're listening to now at night on 710 ESPN. And my gosh, even that first broadcast, to hear Dave Niehouse's voice, it was like all is right in the world once again. How did you go about picking these games, and what has it been like for you to all of a sudden be reliving them again? I know a lot of people are, and I think it's been a huge service to people out there that we've been able to give that to them.
Yeah, that's been great. At least to have baseball on the radio as we go through this, I think has been a really good thing. I'm going to be honest, it's been a ton of work. I mean, there's been, especially with some of the older games that are basically cassette tapes, and trying to figure that all out and get it to sound decent. It's been a lot of work, but well worth it. I'm right now going through the games we're going to play this weekend, the 95 playoff series. We're going to play games 1 through 5, which is great. It's funny because we hear the highlights all the time. You hear the double, you hear things like that, but to relive the games inning by inning and the tension and Dave's call and everything, it's amazing. And you forget, like, that series, just what a great baseball series it was. Just push kind of everything else aside. It was an amazing baseball series. And I've just been I've had a bunch of problems with the Game 2 cassette, so I've had to listen to it a number of times. But that game was incredible. The one they lost in extra innings, and just going through all these tapes, all these games. And right now I'm putting together the May schedule as well. There's still a bunch of games that I think fans will have a ton of interest in May. I'm hoping that we don't get through the entire schedule that I've laid out for May. I guess we'll see what happens. But there's a lot to look forward to.
What are some of the things that jumped out at you that maybe you had missed that you're kind of more appreciative of, that now that you've had a chance to listen to again?
Something I just alluded to, the striking thing is, for people that have, we hear Dave's highlights all the time, and he was such a big part of my childhood, and he's the reason I do what I do. I mean, he's the one that sparked the passion to do this, the passion for play-by-play. And I think it can be forgotten how great he was as a play-by-play man. I mean, just the highlights are amazing, but just to hear him in just a common inning, it doesn't have to be, nothing could happen. It could just be a regular run-of-the-mill 1, 2, 3 inning. But I get so much joy and so much pleasure just listening to just a simple inning like that. I think is amazing. And just to hear some of these games again and kind of get surprised in ways. We're playing both All-Star games coming up, and I just cut up the 2001 All-Star game. And just to hear that again, the Ripken home run, just how it was such an amazing day for the Mariners and Seattle in general, with Mike Cameron and the eight Mariner All-Stars, and Freddie gets the win and Sasaki the save. And I'm cutting up the 79 All-Star game as well. I did not know that Vin Scully was on that call. So when we hear the 79 All-Star game in the Kingdom, it was Vin Scully calling it. So It's like every one of these I do, there's a big surprise.
Oh, that's just wonderful. These are treats. I've been writing them up for the website, which means I've been like writing a pregame piece for it. Like we're there. Like it's 10 years ago, it's 15 years ago, it's 3 years ago. And just coming up with things and researching and going back and some of my stuff and others just to see what was going on at the time. It's absolutely crazy some of the things that you come up with. And oh yeah, that happened and that happened and that happened. And it's I don't, you just kind of become a little bit more appreciative of each season and everything that was going on in those seasons. And it really is an opportunity to just kind of go back and remember and kind of relive a little bit, which is unique and I guess something in this time that we're in right now.
Yeah, and people have been so great, just appreciative of having something, something of a bit of normalcy, I guess, is how I think about it. Just a little bit in these troubled times. It's funny. I was just listening to the pregame show from Game 1 of the '95 series, and it was amazing. Dave Grosby was the pregame show host, and which was great to hear. And he's talking to Dave Niehaus, and I think about that game. And it's easy to forget that the one-game playoff played, and then they hopped on a plane, and a few hours later, they're in New York getting ready for Game 1, and so. Yeah. Dave Niehaus is talking about, his first experience. He's getting ready to call his first playoff game. He's called every pitch in Mariners history, and just all the emotions that went into that time was really fun to hear. I think I'm going to post that. I'm going to post that pregame too, so people can hear that.
Yeah, send it to the radio station. They should play that on the afternoon show. That kind of leading into it. That would be something I think everybody would appreciate. And when you talk about just the circus that it was, the back and forth, then now that we're in this and we know the travel that's involved, right. Can you imagine how exhausted? I mean, I have thought for years and years and years. There have been some years we just ran the 2015 game, and that was a disappointing season. And then a lot of people thought that was going to be the year that the Mariners broke through. There are seasons that we've gone into where I've got to do a little bit extra, like heading into the season and during the season to make sure that I'm ready for extra baseball at the end of the season. Because if you think about it, you add all of a sudden the pace gets accelerated 100 times, the travel gets accelerated, you're in uncharted territory going that long in a season. When the Mariners get there, it's going to be you're going to have to be ready for that physically too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't wait for it. I hope it happens soon. I've enjoyed your pieces too, looking back at the perspective of what it was like that opening day, seeing some of your previews and some of the predictions for the seasons for the Mariners coming. It's been really interesting because you get through the course of the season and you kind of forget, going into the season where teams, the expectation level, I guess, for teams, especially a few years back. So that's been really fun to look at.
Oh, it's been fun to go back and find it. It's not all off the top of the head. Some stories are, but most of it isn't. Hey, you're somebody that's always breaking down things and looking at the numbers and analytically. And we've heard all the different scenarios of they could play this many games, they could play that many games. We don't know what it's going to look like. What's that going to mean historically with the numbers?
That's an excellent question. So there's been shortened seasons in the past. 95, which we were just talking about, was a shortened season. 81 was a shortened season. So it's happened before. I think what's different about this season is just the sheer unknown. I mean, we really don't know at this point what we're looking at in terms of game total. I mean, I think everyone's with me at this point that I think any game total would be amazing. I just want to see baseball at this point. I mean, that's what I'm hoping for. And so I think it's just going to be a year that we look at like big picture, like it's part of just this, I don't even know how to describe it, what we're in right now. And when you think about this year and how many games we end up seeing, like it's going to be, it is what it is at that point. It's going to be hard to measure in different years. There's going to be, especially if it's if it's 80 some games or something like that. I mean, there's a chance we could see some really weird percentage wise. I mean, in that amount of games, you could have a approaching 400, that kind of thing. But
Oh, you'll see 400, I think.
yeah, I mean, there's a chance in a short season like that could definitely happen. We could see some weird percentage-wise. Obviously, the counting numbers won't add up to anything like we'd see in a normal season, but percentage-wise, that's where we could see some abnormalities. But at the end of the day, I think we'd all just love to see baseball.
Yes, I will take any I've been watching the Korean baseball. Have you checked that out yet?
Yes, I have. Anything live at this point, I think I've looked at. Yes.
For those of you who don't know, the Korean teams are televising their intra-squad games and seeing quite a bit of the Latte Giants, who feature Dae-Ho Lee. So there's a familiar face on that. He's looking kind of trim right now.
He looks great. I mean, I was talking to Aaron Goldsmith last night. One of the games coming up, I can't remember the date. I think it's next weekend. Is the Mariners Padres comeback when the Mariners were down 12-2?
Good.
Yeah. Yeah, come back and win the game. And I automatically think of Dae-Ho Lee in that game because he came off the bench in that game and just had a huge game. And so that's coming up in a few days. And I love thinking about Dae-Ho Lee. I really enjoyed his time with the Mariners. He's had this year since he left, too, in Korea. He's done really well.
Yeah, no, he has, which is great. I mean, he was a good guy, and it was just interesting time in Mariners history. Why not try this out? But it's great that he's able to go home and continue with the career that he's had there. I'm going to have an ice cream sandwich in his honor tonight.
Ooh, I like that.
He was a big fan of the ice cream sandwiches. You mentioned Aaron Goldsmith. I know that we've been checking in with others. How's Aaron doing? I think you talked with Rizzy as well.
Yeah, so it's funny, I talked to Dave Sims yesterday, and he's kind of right in the middle of everything. He's in New York right now, and he's in complete lockdown. So
he's staying home.
He's staying home. He's doing good. His family's doing good. So that was good to hear. And they're just not venturing out, which is a smart thing to do. Aaron's doing great. His family's doing well. They're chasing 3 kids around every hour of every day inside the house. So we just we did a podcast last night, just released it this morning. So he spent some time doing something other than chasing the children around, which was great. But he's doing really well. Rick's doing good. So I think we've checked in with just about everyone over the last few days. So everyone seems to be doing good. I mean, we're hunkered down, me and my family. Really, ever since I got back from Arizona, we really haven't gone anywhere or done anything. We're just trying to do our part, stay out of the way, and trying to knock down the curve. And hopefully it does sooner than later. But that's basically what we're doing. We're hunkered down and become pseudo teachers with the kids. And I'm really spent a lot of time just banging away at all these tapes and getting the games ready. It's been a lot of work, but a lot of fun. So it's given me something to do.
Yeah, it's funny. Everybody talks about, you can take this up, take that up. And it seems like there's a lot of work that still has to be done, which all of a sudden you don't have that time. But is there anything that you've discovered in your extra time right now that perhaps maybe you wouldn't have?
What's funny is I'm really working constantly on these games. I just haven't had a lot of extra time. So between trying to help the kids do all their things and take some, walks around the house, that kind of thing. But I just haven't had a lot of time. I have wrestled with some of these, especially this 95 series that I'm working on. I've spent, every second of the last few days working on this thing between tape issues and missing innings and things like that, trying to piece it all together. So I'm glad I've had something to do, though. It's kept me busy, but I haven't had a lot of time for that extra whatever yet. I know I had this list of projects that, I'll be able to do this, and this. That has not happened yet. So maybe I'll get.
Well, I hope those things are still on your list when baseball starts up not too long from now. Yeah. We'll have to wait and see, but well, I'm glad you are finding a way to stay busy with the baseball. You've gone into full historian mode, and we absolutely appreciate that.
Yeah, it's been fun, and it's actually I'm I'm looking at, I mean, my entire floor is all cassette tapes as I look down. And there's some cool ones coming up. And I've picked up, I found the back-to-back Griffey home run game, which I'm pretty excited about. I found the Brian Holman near perfect game game. There's so many cool games like that I mean, I don't know the last time I've heard some of these things. So I'm excited to put them out once we get to May, and we'll see how many we get into.
Well, Gary, we're going to check in again before the next haircut.
That's good. I'll make sure to cut my hair before every one of these. You know, I want to look good for your video series.
Well, you know what? I mean, you could really up your game and do like the Diaz lightning bolts.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah.
I mean, why not?
Yeah. Uh-oh. I mean, what could go wrong? No one's seeing me anyway. What's the difference?
What is Goldsmith doing right now?
Oh, I've asked him about this. So I saw him on video yesterday, and his hair is almost out of frame. It's just kind of piling on top of itself. And he almost has to get low in the screen just so he can fit the entire hair. I mean, if this goes on for a few more weeks, I don't know what he's going to do, because it's not like me. I mean, I cut my hair. Well, what's the worst that can happen? He has actual hair, so it's a problem. I don't know what he's going to do.
We have a hair emergency.
Hair emergency is right. Yeah.
All right, we're going to have to find a way. You said you did a video, so is this going to be shared or?
I saw on video. Unfortunately, it was an audio. We released the podcast in audio form, so no one else can see it except my description of what it looked like.
Well, you need to do another one, and then you've got good blackmail material there.
That's right.
Gary, great to see you. We'll check in again sometime soon. Say hi to Mary and the family for me.
Thanks, Shannon.
Okay, Matt, great to check in with you. Going to do a little bit of a get to know, which I did with a lot of guys. Didn't quite have time to get to you, and you were busy with some other things in spring training, but also want to catch up on what you're doing right now. And there's a little story I want to get out of you as well. Maybe two little stories that I want to get out of you as well. But first of all, tell us where you're coming from. Tell us how the family's doing and what you've been up to.
Right now we are in Phoenix, Arizona still. We bought a house here this off season, and we just thought this was the best place to stay with how crazy everything's gotten. And it's hitting us down here pretty significantly too, but the weather is great right now. So at least we can get out and go on walks with a little 1.5-year-old. It makes this quarantine time a little more challenging, but this has been where we've been, and everyone's right now been safe and healthy. So we've been very blessed that way.
What was that last week of spring training like for you?
It was pretty surreal. I think as a player, it doesn't set in until we found out the NBA, a player was affected. And for us, you're kind of in your own little bubble when you're in spring training. You're getting ready for your season. You're with your teammates. You're getting to know each other again. You're catching up on how each other are doing, and your baseball, you're progressing your baseball activities. And so we're getting ready for season. And finally, when they say, everything's been shut down, it's kind of hard. It's a complete mental adjustment. It's just we were revving up to get going, and it's kind of hard to shut it down, but we're just very, we know that this is bigger than baseball, and that our thoughts and prayers are definitely with the people and families who've been affected by this tragedy. And it's extreme bummer right now that we're going through as a world. So
what has it been like for you to take it inside, to stay inside, and really it's just your little family unit right now in one place?
Yeah, it's been fun. Like we're taking it as appreciation time that we get to be with each other more often. We're blessed to be with each other in the off season a lot, and now to have this kind of off season extended out, it's been nice. And we're doing the best to find activities for us to do. Like I said, we have a 1.5-year-old, and he's very energetic, and he likes to run around. So that's made it a little tough for us, but we're taking turns with him, and it's just been, for me, I'm learning things that I've never thought I was going to learn before, and I'm trying new things, and so it's just been it's the nature of what we've been dealing with right now, and I know that everyone's dealing with it in different ways, and for us, it's been fun to just be with each other, and I get to be with my son longer now, so that's very grateful for that opportunity, and we're just taking it day by day right now.
So he's on his feet and he's running around. Is he talking a little bit yet?
We're learning words right now. That's one of the things that we're learning, and we're teaching words right now. We learned apple today, so that was a big word for us. It's we're getting more words under our belt, but that's as we luckily have been able to be home with him more, and two parents around him, he's been able to get I think more out of it, and so it's been nice to be able to see his progression when I wouldn't be able to be here during the season. It's been it's a blessing.
That's a great way to look at that. That'll stick with him his entire life. That'll have impact his entire life that you've had this time with him.
Yeah,
which
definitely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Absolutely. On the baseball side, different guys are doing different things to stay where they need to be right now. We talked with Jerry DePoto a week ago, and he said that the trainers have got programs for people who can't get out anywhere, and it might be something as basic as working with a weighted sock. Other people can get out. Some guys have got gyms. I saw a picture of you carrying a sandbag up a hill somewhere. What are you doing to keep where you need to be right now physically?
Well, yes, with the gyms, everything being shut down, we have to be a little more creative with how we're staying ready and how we're staying focused and keeping our bodies ready. The sandbag was just a thing. I originally had picked up a bunch of sandbags to work on a project in my backyard to fix some of the gravel and the I don't even know, the cement was pulling up a little bit, so we were going to put some sand underneath it, and I had some extra bags of sand, so I said, it would be fun to hike with some sand, and we've been doing our best at staying away from people, and that's one of the activities that we have found to do. That's it's pretty outdoors, but it's also away from people, and we have actually stopped in the past week just because we want to prevent any contact with people, but I've also started my own little home gym in my garage, and my wife and I work out together down there, and you have bands, and our training staff does a great job of giving us little tools that we can do to help keep our range of motion going and our flexibility. And so right now, with not knowing when the season's going to start, we just got to keep going, keep our bodies moving, and that's all we can do.
Is hiking something you normally like to do?
No, not normally. I've kind of acquired it this I would say spring. I got out here early in January to Arizona, and I just kind of picked it up, and we've been doing it more often. I've probably done it about 20 times since I've been out here, and it's super relaxing, super enjoyable, and for my family, we're super active people, so it's been a nice little get out of the house, kind of burn some energy off for us.
It's obviously great to get outside. Sometimes too many people are getting outside, so I think I understand trying to get inside a little bit when that happens as well. Hey, I mentioned there were a couple of little stories that I wanted to get to. There's one that's been told quite a bit, but in case people don't know, your nickname is Goose.
Yep. Yep.
Your child's name is Maverick.
Yep.
There's a little bit of Top Gun involvement.
There's a lot of Top Gun involvement. We originally did not pick the name because of Top Gun, but we wanted a strong M name, and I kept saying that I wanted a name that would look good on a scoreboard somewhere. So I thought a Maverick was a very strong name. For me, it would look good on a scoreboard. And honestly, the Goose thing kind of came when I was with the Minnesota Twins. One of the players brought it up, and ever since then, it's just kind of worked. And even when I'm at home, friends and family call me Goose, and it's just it's been a fun little thing that we get to have, and I get to say that I'm his wingman for life. And we've kind of run with the Top Gun theme because of the nature of it. But it's definitely been a fun little thing.
Stay with your wingman, Goose, or Mav. Stay with your wingman. Now, were
Definitely.
you Goose because of Top Gun, or was that just a nickname that was thrown at you?
No, it was definitely a Top Gun things, and I think the Goose. I joke that I picked Maverick just so I could have that name, but realistically, I was just someone threw it out at me, and I loved it, and it stuck, and people just kept calling me ever since. So it's been fun.
Let's take it back a little bit with you. Where did you grow up playing baseball?
I grew up in Simi Valley, California, a little north of LA, and went to high school out there. Didn't go to college. I was going to go to Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo, but decided to get drafted, and I got drafted by the Dodgers in the 31st round.
You turned down San Luis Obispo for 3 or 4 years?
Yes, that was definitely the biggest what if decision I've ever made. What if I would have gone one way? But for me, it's always been about baseball. I've had one plan in my life since I was a third grader. My plan was to play professional baseball, and I never had a plan B. This was it. And luckily, I've had a lot of support behind me, my family, my wife, and this has been it. This has been my goal as a little child, and I just feel very fortunate that I've been able to be playing as long as I have been.
Why was it baseball that you decided on?
I think growing up, when I would watch players play, we'd go to Dodger Stadium. I'd watch those guys play, and Dodger Stadium's just such a huge stadium. I remember looking down and thinking that these guys it's incredible that these guys get to play a game for a living, and they get to have so much fun. And I think being an athlete, you get to show kids that kind of any dream that you want is possible. And when I remember being in third grade, and my teacher had told me, that's not a realistic dream to be a baseball player. And I think using that fire that she kind of put underneath me as a third grader to prove her wrong, and also loved the game that I just grew up playing, I think there's just nothing I've ever wanted to do. It's been the only thing I've ever wanted to do, and I just love it. So.
I heard a little something, I think, about your persistence. And correct me if I'm wrong in this, but there was a Arizona Fall League story with you where you went along and kind of had your own program there, even though you weren't in the Fall League?
It actually was Instructional League.
Instructional.
We were Instructional League. When I was drafted 31st round, my dad and I moved out here to Arizona, and we bought a house out here. We lived next to the community, or the complex where the Dodgers worked out at. And I remember just thinking, like, this is not going to be easy for me. I'm going to have to do something, and we're going to have to do more than the average player. I wasn't very strong. I wasn't very big. I didn't throw very hard. And I remember my dad telling me, like, listen, son, you can do it. You can do this dream, but you're going to have to be better than the average player. And my whole goal was to be better than the first rounder. Every year we had a first rounder play with me on a team. And I remember thinking, I'm going to be better than him. And that was just a goal that I set for myself. And my first year of not getting invited to Instructional League or pitching camps, I would show up, and the pitching coordinator at the time he would say, hey, you can go practice. You can practice on the other fields. And so they would have to just slot me into Instructional League without being invited. It was something that I don't regret doing. It was a lot of hard work. I never had an off season. I went into the complex every day when I was there in off season, and it's been a long journey. It's not been maybe the fairy tale journey that a lot of people see it as. There's been a lot of grind and a lot of grit and hard work that people don't see off the field. But it's my story, and I love it. So it's been a fun one.
So you were just going to take whatever you could at that point.
I was going to go out and get it. I knew that nothing was going to be handed to me, and I just want people to know that anything is possible. I was a 31st rounder, 170 pounds out of high school, throwing 90 miles per hour. I wasn't anything special, And I just remember telling myself, like, we can do this, but you just have to do better. And so anything I did, I tried my best and I did as much as I could. So.
What was it like when you made your debut?
It was pretty surreal. It was incredible. Being able to debut in Dodger Stadium as a kid, you grow up watching that. You walk up the steps and you look down at the field and you think this is huge. And it's just funny because you get emotional thinking about it. I go through so much to get there, and when I got there, they said, when you get on the field, take a look around, take it all in, but remember it's still baseball. And I remember looking up, going, "Goodness, this looks bigger in person on the field than I ever imagined it would look." And so I was just really appreciative for everything I'd done and all the people around me to help me get there. It was just a surreal moment, and for me to put the outing that I did, obviously, was the icing on top. But it was just, I couldn't have asked for a better day. That was incredible.
What a beautiful place to debut in, and it was the place that you went as a kid too. I imagine that holds special memories for you.
Yeah, definitely.
Art that gets underappreciated sometimes. You always talk about Fenway. I remember the first time I went there, and it's so iconic, and I didn't even realize it until I was in there.
Yeah, it's a big stadium, and it's large. I remember sitting in the top section of Dodger Stadium as a kid and looking down, and I think the players looked like ants at the time, and I just was so excited to be there. I didn't care about where we were sitting. I just remember sitting with my dad thinking, this is what I want to do, and this is where I want to be. And so it's an incredible place.
What did it mean to you last year? You're traded over to the Mariners, and they gave you some good opportunities, and you made, I think, a lot of those opportunities. And the next thing you know, Scott Service is handing you the ball quite a bit at the end of games.
For me, that was just another. I use the word appreciation a lot, but it's kind of what it is. It's my whole life. I've just been very appreciative of what I've been given, and I know that I've earned some opportunities, but being able to be appreciative of moments that you get are just, I feel like, makes the moment that much sweeter. And after I was DFA'd by the Twins, I told myself that if I would ever get an opportunity again to play, to take full advantage of it, have no restrictions, and just love playing where I am and just be in the moment. And I was blessed with the opportunity to become a Mariner. And when I was given that opportunity to go out and pitch, I just remember thinking, like, listen, be appreciative, but you've earned this moment to be out on this mound again. And so I think I really thrived in that mindset. And as soon as Skip started giving me the ball in the ninth inning, I would say that my appreciation level grew, but also my mindset of, this is your game to finish. And it was fun. I loved every minute of it. And it's just a fun role to be in. And there's nothing like closing out a game and feeling like you just shut that team down, especially when they were close to scoring. It's just an incredible experience. The adrenaline and the emotions are just, it's just tough to beat.
So you got that experience on the field last year. You got a good look at what's on the other side. What did you do to prepare for this year with the knowledge that you had from the previous year?
Yeah, I just went into this offseason knowing that, I want to be in that same role or in that late inning role for the Mariners again. And whenever Skip gives me the ball, that's when I'm ready to pitch. I went into this offseason trying to find out about how can I be a better Matt. And I think a lot of times we worry about what we don't do well. And for me, I went into this offseason thinking about what did I do well and how can I do what I did well more often. I think the best athletes in the world are the most consistent athletes in the world. And for me, it was, how can I repeat my good throws more often? How can I throw my good curveball more often? How can I throw my fastball where I want to more often? Instead of worrying about what I don't do well, I think that was my biggest goal going in this offseason, was making sure I had good video of what I'd done well and just focus on what I needed to do to repeat my delivery and repeat my throws in a good position.
Were you working on a splitter?
No, that wasn't me.
Okay, that was somebody else. No splitter. Fastball and the curveball.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Tell us about that fastball. It's got one of the better spin rates on the team right now. How do you like to use that, and what have you learned about that?
I like to throw it. There's definitely been some games that it's worked for me better than others, but it's as a guy who throws hard, you love your fastball. And for me, this is one of the things I would tell younger kids is that if you love what you throw, then it really doesn't matter what you have. Like, everyone has different arsenal. Everyone has different pitches. And for me, like, I love my fastball. I love my curveball. I love my slider. And the more love you can have for your pitches, the more conviction and confidence you can have behind throwing them. And I think it takes time. You go through a lot of growing pains. You go through a lot of curves of how you're dealing with different emotions and also adversity on the field. But as soon as you fall in love with your pitches, I think it makes it a little easier to be convicted with throwing them as much as you can. So for me, it's just I love my fastball. I love throwing it. I wish I could throw it all the time because I love throwing it that much, but I know that's not strategically the best way to go about the game now, because hitters have gotten so good. So, but I'll throw it when I need to.
He loves his fastball. I like that. When you looked around in spring training, I think one of the big stories was that bullpen. I think a lot of people were kind of questioning, well, what have you got down there for relievers? I saw a heck of a lot down there.
I think I've dealt with being an underdog my whole life, and it's fun being an underdog, and I think our bullpen is an underdog. And I think we have a lot of hungry, fierce guys down there that are ready to pitch whenever Skip gives them the ball, and super talented, different slots, different arm angles, different pitches. And I think we have the making to be a really good quality bullpen. And I'm just excited to watch it play out. And I wish that obviously the season's not starting right now, which is a huge bummer. But when it does start eventually, I think people are gonna be surprised with how well and how talented our bullpen is.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch everybody down there. My last thing for everybody who's cooped up at home right now, have you got any Netflix recommendations? Have you played a game online? Is there something you have cooked? Is there something you've taken up as a hobby you can recommend?
Other than being a dad as much as I can be, my wife and I, we like the Chicago series, Chicago Med, Chicago Fire. We watch those at night. We're not big TV people, but I've tried to learn to be a bigger reader. I'm always into self-help videos on YouTube, podcasts, anything to help progress as a human. I think I put a tweet out that said progression helps progress, and progress makes people happy. And if we're happy, I think that'll get us through this time of kind of a black cloud right now that we're dealing with, and this tragedy. So for me, it's just been trying to read and to watch videos and listen to self-help stuff.
All good stuff. Matt, so good to catch up with you. I hope we see you in person real soon.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, I want to thank you, Melanie, for taking some time out with us today. This is Melanie LeGrande joining us now. She is the Vice President of Social Responsibility for Major League Baseball. And Melanie, I saw something come through. I think I saw it on Twitter first, and it was something that I wasn't aware it was a program that you had. It's something that I've been passionate about myself. It makes a ton of sense, and now could not be a better time for it, I think. I think a lot of people know what a silver slugger is. I'm not sure they know what a summer slugger is, and I think it can probably help out parents of some certain age kids quite a bit. Tell us a little bit about the program.
Absolutely. First, thanks for having me. This is really exciting. So pleased that we're able to work from home and be able to talk to each other and do our own remote distancing and social distancing in a smart way. So Summer Slugger is our baseball-themed digital education course. And really, it was set up in 2017 to support parents, educators, teachers who have kids in grades 3 through 5, so 3rd through 5th graders. And the summer program was because we wanted kids to be able to retain their science skills, their math skills, their English skills in a time when they're not typically in school. So I'm not sure if you know, but a lot of times when kids are out of school, they come back at the end or in the fall and they've lost 2.5 months of learning. And so a lot of kids, especially in certain situations, don't have access to tutors and to parents who are at home to say, hey, 2 hours of reading today. And so what we've done is really infuse the game of baseball into a game. Kids will think it's a game, but it's really, surreptitiously a way to get them to retain those smart skills so they can start the school year in the right direction.
How did it come about and how was it developed?
So we started it in 2017 with EverFi. EverFi is a social impact and leading digital education tech company, and we wanted to work with them. And I think they came to us and said, hey, we have some amazing programs here. And we said, well, we're looking to reach kids. We're looking to help kids with their STEM, their science, technology, engineering, and math skills. And so we came together and came up with this great program. Baseball is played mostly in the summer. It made sense for us to do a program that was supporting kids during the summertime because that's when our season is going on. So it was important for us to think about how to engage fans, how to support educational outcomes, but in the end, just really make sure students have what they need to be successful.
And baseball is incorporated through everything.
Absolutely. I've played the game. I can see the game. I've seen youth play the game. You may have 9 players who are sitting on the bench and they say, okay, well, this is 3rd grade math. If the pitcher and the catcher go out to warm up, how many players are left? And so it's very adaptive. It adapts to the grade of the student, it adapts to the skill set of the student, and it helps them and is reactive to how they do. So it gives them harder questions the more that they get right, and sometimes comes back to them with similar questions if they need some help in determining how to move forward on those existing questions. So it's a great program. I've seen it.
And it's for like the entire length of a summer, so that's a lot of courses right there, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's 36. It's got so many courses that are set up for not just English, math, reading, science, just really critical thinking to help the brain stay stimulated in a time when we're usually going outside to play catch or, play double dutch or something on the street. Like, no, let's stay engaged and make sure that we're thinking about ways that are going to help us in the school year coming forth.
I imagine science is involved too. Can I learn about a spin rate?
You might be able to. I haven't done all this series, but I imagine there's some tricky things in there that, baseball, a lot of people don't realize how much science is in baseball. How they just see the pitcher go up, throw a pitch, hit the ball. If you're not a crazy fan that's really into stats, you don't realize it. But the pitcher has to think, okay, what's the velocity going to be? If I throw this pitch, he's a left-hander versus a right-hander. How is he going to react to it? These things are physics. These things are biology, chemistry. There's so much science in baseball, and being able to take it to a level for a 3rd to a 5th grader, they don't even know what they're learning, but they are learning, and that's exciting.
Melanie, I'm going to throw something at you that I would love to see someday. Okay, put you on the spot here. Out here in Seattle, of course, everything is very aviation based with Boeing and everything that we have out here. And there's actually, I can't remember, an aviation high school, I believe, and it's right across the street from the Museum of Flight. And the whole curriculum is based on aviation, and you can cover the science, obviously, but also history and English and math and everything like that. I see no reason why you couldn't do that with baseball.
No, I totally agree. I'm fine with you putting me on the spot. We have partners that do a science of baseball curriculum. We have a number of our clubs that have youth academies or run their own Reviving Baseball and Inner Cities programs. They use this curriculum every day. It's so much more than a game. Our sport just gives you the opportunity to do so much more, to be a major league citizen, to be thinking about Jackie Robinson, where you're thinking about your character education, to think about Roberto Clemente, who, he passed away on a mission flight, on a humanitarian flight. There's so many heroes that you can learn from, and there's so many things and aspects of the sport that allow you to be academically, to get all the academics you need out of it. So I don't disagree with you. Maybe we'll see it one day.
I would love that. I would absolutely love that. This is for the younger ones, and it's more targeted. And I also understand it's all team specific. So if you are a Mariners fan, you're going to see Mariners-based problems and players and whatnot. If you're a Red Sox fan, you'll see Red Sox.
Yeah, a bit of that. So we have team-based, and then if you don't have a favorite team, you can just click on the code MLB if you go to summerslugger.com/MLB. That's the code you would use if you don't have a favorite player or a favorite team. But the fact is, clubs are able to infuse their own pieces to it. So you may have a particular team that puts a 30-second video in there with their favorite player, and he may say, hey, the next series, the next game that you're going to play is X, Y, and Z, and I hope that you do successful, or I hope that you're successful in it. So there's a way that clubs can infuse their own brand into it so that you feel even closer to the game.
And parents can just log on to MLB.com or summerslugger.com and get all the information. And most importantly, it's free. It's available to everybody.
It's free. It's available to everyone. It's summerslugger.com. If you go to summerslugger.com/MLB, you can go directly to a team page. If you're an Orioles fan, if you're a Mariners fan, go on, click on, you put in the code Mariners, takes you to the next step. And it's wonderful. It's a great program that I hope everyone takes advantage of.
Well, we're going to put it out there. Melanie, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much, and have a great day. Stay sane and stay healthy.
You too. You have such a unique outlook on dealing with adversity, and it's something that you've been through. And I think we're all going through a little bit of something missing baseball right now. And I think that is something that you can, in particular, help us out with. But before we get to that, I just want to get caught up where you're at right now, how everybody is doing, and what you have been up to in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, thank you, Shannon. Good to see you too. I'm healthy as far as COVID-19 goes. As far as I know, no symptoms. My wife and I feel great. We're just trying to, do the quarantine and help slow the curve. And I think it's really important that everybody just does their part. And I think there's people at risk who will benefit from you staying home, and you may not be at risk, but you can do your part in not spreading it. So I think that's really important first off. And, we're doing good. My recovery is going well. I'm just doing a lot of core exercises right now, trying to get back some core strength and mobility throughout my body, and staying in contact with the guys on the Mariners training staff, and just working with them to try to keep this thing rolling in the right direction, so I don't get behind in my rehab through this tough time where, can't go to the complex every day.
Are you in Arizona right now, or are you in California?
I'm in California.
Okay. Do you have to do all of that on your own, or are you able to work with somebody on that rehab stuff?
Unfortunately, I'm not able to work with anyone right now because of the quarantine effect, and rehab facilities being shut down, at least for, temporarily right now. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, everything gets rolling and I can go and start seeing someone. But right now in this recovery, I can pretty much do almost everything on my own. Now, granted, it would be nice to work with someone, to have someone taking me through each exercise, but, Bitzel does a great job and Kyle does a great job trying to help me navigate that on my own right now.
Yeah, I hear they're checking in with everybody, the medical staff, every day to make sure everybody's okay, whether they have an injury they're working through or not.
Right, yeah.
Can you kind of walk us back to that last week in Peoria? I'd really like to hear what that was like from a player's perspective. I think it was that Tuesday night when it really kind of caught our attention with the NBA, and then things got moving really quickly.
Yeah, that was a whirlwind. It seems like it was months ago, even though it was only a couple weeks ago. And I thought, I showed up, I think it was on a Wednesday or a Thursday, and, it was kind of everything was coming to a head and getting crazy. And just every couple hours, it seemed like our plans drastically changed. It was like, everything's going to be okay. We're safe here. And then it was like, take care of yourself and your families, do everything you possibly can. So it was just kind of unexpected, and it's kind of scary to see how fast something can spread like this. So, like I said earlier, I think it's really important that people take it seriously and just do their part.
Was there a realization for you? I mean, what kind of struck you that, I'm probably going to be okay, but I got to look out for others here?
Just going off of what health experts say and trying to be smart. And, like everyone's saying, just wash your hands a lot, try not to touch your nose and face, try not to touch your mouth. Just doing the little stuff that I think will make a big difference. And as well as, trying to eat really healthy and take certain supplements that will help your immunity. And like I said earlier, you may not be directly affected by this virus, or you may contract it and not even show symptoms, but you're putting people at risk if you're going into large gatherings. So I think it's smart right now to try to avoid that. And, hopefully this thing passes sooner than later.
You mentioned eat correctly. I know that's something that you do all of the time, but more than ever, what are some of the things that you're trying to do right now and think others probably should too?
I guess nothing too different than the norm. I try to eat just a lot of fruits and vegetables and good quality source, try to eat organic, try to eat grass-fed meat, free-range chicken, free-range eggs, stuff like that. And, I've been upping my vitamin C daily supplement to twice a day instead of just once a day. And I think another supplement that people can look for that will really help with immunity is zinc. And then at night, magnesium. Most people, from what I've heard and understood, can be deficient in magnesium. And I've noticed a help in my sleep quality by taking magnesium. But always consult the doctor before you decide to take any supplements.
The slugger. No, but I mean, you've been so invested in your nutrition for so long. It was interesting to hear what you were doing there. And I second the magnesium. Something calm, I forgot what it was that I was taking. That was something that definitely helps at night. Another thing that helps at night, I found last night, was on our flagship station. Of course, we have no baseball games right now, no live baseball games, but we are running the classics. And it was nice to be able to turn on the radio last night or turn on the television and see some baseball, but everybody is missing it. They're really feeling it right now. And you know a little something about that. I know it's a different situation and that we're talking about a world situation and a lot more going on, but man, I know you miss baseball when you are hurt. What are some of the things that you do to deal with that?
I like watching highlights and obviously, like you said, watching past games and cool things like that. I think that definitely helps fill the big spot in our hearts where we're all missing baseball. And, we're all excited to hopefully get back out there as soon as possible once everything calms down and once it's safe to resume. But for me personally, I just kind of go back to, time being hurt was really difficult, not to be on the field, not being able to do my typical normal routine, but also it's just being able to adapt and adjust to what I'm able to do and control what I can control. And that's basically the whole philosophy behind everything I believe in, is kind of not worrying about things that are out of your control, although it can be hard at times, but building that mental resiliency to be able to focus on things you can control, not worry about external events that you can't control, and just try to get through it and try to look at the positive side of things.
How have you applied that to what we're going through right now?
So for instance, what we're going through right now, it can be very difficult for people because you can't resume in your normal routine or your normal life. You can't see a ton of family and friends like I would want to. So for me, just trying to stay in contact with my friends more than I typically do when my schedule's really busy, when I'm at the field for, 6 to 8 hours a day. Now I can call friends more often, take advantage of it in that way, talk to my parents more often, call my grandma, spend a lot of time with my wife. And, those are some positives that you can look at and you can try to get out of this situation. And also for me, trying to focus on, I love self-improvement type stuff because I feel like I'm always trying to improve to help my performance on the field and to help my life off the field. Managing stress, doing stuff like that, making sure I'm sleeping and eating right. And you got all the more time in the world to focus on those things right now. So, there's some definite negatives, and I feel for a lot of people for what they might be going through as far as the illness goes, or just not being able to work or being, unfortunately in some scenarios being laid off. And that's got to be really difficult. And, we're here to hopefully support you, but at the same time, there can be something that's taken out of even a bad situation. If that's where I think like a gratefulness practice can come into really helpful scenario where, if you're watching this interview between me and you right now and you're a fan, you most likely have an internet and a TV or a tablet or in a smartphone, and you have probably food, water, and shelter. And those are things that not everyone on this earth are blessed to have. So you should be thankful for those things and remind yourself of that. And I think that can really help your mindset.
You talked a little bit when you got to camp this year that in the off season you got into meditation, and that was something that helped you. How did you get into that, and how did that progress with you?
I started getting into meditation in college, but it's kind of grown more and more each year since then. There's been years where, kind of looking back, my best years statistically and just off the field with life in general, my happiest moments are been when I was consistently meditating and taking that time for stillness is what they call, and just trying to get into a relaxed state to where your worries or your stresses can calm down or go away. And I think it's really important. It's really helped me, and I hope people give it a shot. And I think there's some really, with all the social media nowadays, you can follow some really smart people and some really cool people that offer advice in that area. And there's some amazing apps out there like Headspace, or the one I currently use now is Waking Up by Sam Harris, and also Vision Pursue. That was an app that our old mental strength coach, Darren McMahon's got me on. It's kind of pointed directly for athletes. So it's got great meditations on there. And I think people can, right, like I said earlier, you don't have, a lot of people say, well, I don't have enough time in my day to meditate. And although now you might have a little bit more, if you have a family and kids, it can be really difficult. You're at home all day with your kids, and it's hard to carve out, 5 minutes. But I think if you wake up 5 minutes earlier, or you stay up 5 minutes later at night, you'd be surprised how easy it is to squeeze in a practice. And I think there's a really good book that's helped me kind of focus on developing better habits. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear, and he talks about how you can habit stack. For instance, if you're brewing a cup of coffee while you're waiting for it to brew, you can sit down and do a meditation in that 2 minutes, and it doesn't add any more stress to your day. If anything, it's going to help your day. And I think was a really good book, and I think a lot of people would gain a lot from reading it.
How does it fit into your regimen?
Typically in the mornings, like I said, I'll usually when I love coffee, so in the morning I usually will drink tea first, and I usually go stretch while the tea's steeping and boiling, and then typically when I'm making coffee, about an hour later is when I'll go do some breathing and do some meditation real quick, and then I always do it right before I go to sleep. I find that it helps me get relaxed, and is really helpful with that.
Those are great tips. I'm going to try a couple of them. I hope everybody else does too, because there's certainly, a lot that we have to let go of at the end of the day, without question. Really appreciate the tips on that front. What about on the baseball side? Let's go ahead and take it back to spring training. I know that you were dealing with what you were dealing with, but how different was that clubhouse for you this year?
There's some new faces, very young this year. For me personally, I felt like I wasn't able to, it was harder for me to connect with a lot of the guys because I was spending much more time in the training room and not on the field with guys. And it kind of, now looking forward, I'm going to appreciate being on the field so much more than I ever have before, having that, taken away from you. And the same thing with the virus going on now, when we're able to go out to dinner with friends, I think you're going to appreciate that so much more than after going through something like this. So that's another positive way to look at it. And, typically for spring training day, you go take BP, you're shagging, that's an hour at least right there. Typically there's a guy next to you that you're talking with and getting to know better. You're in the cage hitting, doing your early work in the morning. You're doing a lift. You're going through stretch lines. There's multiple hours where you're connecting with your teammates that I didn't have a chance to do because I was rehabbing. But at the same time, I developed some better relationships with guys who were going through the rehab process with me as well. That goes back to last year. I felt like I got a lot closer with Chase and Bradford, and we were able to kind of lean on each other throughout the late summer and off season and stay in contact with each other. And it's always good having someone go through something similar to you to kind of pick each other's brain and share each other's thoughts and feelings. And he's been a huge help for me.
It's good to see Jason get out on the field the last couple of days. I remember seeing him play catch, and that was great to see. It's been a tough road for him.
Definitely, yeah.
One of the things I wanted to ask you in spring training, and you were hard to find because you were in the trainer's room, and I can't go in there.
Yeah.
In the off season, I put out a tweet that I don't like the idea of robo-umps. And one of the reasons I don't like it is what it's going to do to catchers. And I think that's just one of the most interesting positions on the field. And if I remember correctly, I think you liked that tweet. What are your feelings on the automatic umpires or the electronic umpires in strike zone?
I think right now I stand by liking that tweet, and I think our umpires do a good job. I think they're human. I think it's part of the game. I know a lot of them work really hard at trying to improve and looking at their charts after games, whether they miss certain calls, and I think that's really important. Just because as a player we focus so much on our performance and trying to improve. It's really good to see that they're doing the same. And I don't know if I trust the technology quite yet. And that's just my personal stance, my personal opinion. And I think it's going to drastically affect the catching position as far as you're not going to – typically you want your catcher to be really good defensively. You want him to be really good pitch framer, really good, guy who blocks balls in dirt and throws guys out. And I think it might kind of turn into let's just throw a guy back there who hits well, and it takes away that position from a lot of the really good defensive catchers. And I think if you look around the league, catchers – there's a lot of veteran catchers that play for a long time because it's really hard to find a really good defensive catcher that can command a bullpen and command a starting pitcher and that can connect with his pitchers and knows which button to press with which guy. And that's something that's really impressed me with Tom Murphy. I feel like he does a great job with that, and he takes a lot of pride in his defense. And I don't want to see that getting taken away from a guy like him. And although Tom is a great hitter, and I think he's just starting to show what he's capable of, I think it's only going to get better and better.
How do you think Tom's doing in the woods right now?
He's getting after it. I know that. I've been seeing some of his videos. That guy's a tremendous worker, great teammate. So, trying to stay in contact with him and learn from him. He's a really bright guy.
Yeah, I've seen some of his tweets and Instagram posts, and it's funny because you learn more about people when you're separated. There's sometimes stuff that comes out in text that doesn't come out when they're right next to you. Right.
Yeah, that's something that I'm trying to do a better job. I think Tom probably thought the same as me. Like, I'm going to start sharing some more stuff to hopefully help someone. I try to stay off of social media and my computer as much as possible just to be more in the moment and stop scrolling through unneeded stuff that, you look down and you wasted 30, 40 minutes just on your phone. So try not to be on there and as much as possible. But I think it can be very useful if used right. And that's just having balance and awareness with where you're at each day.
The key is to be intentional with your social media.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hey, you brought up one thing in the umpires, and I'm glad you said that because I don't think that people really understand this. But I had the opportunity to talk with a few this off season, and it really struck me that as the umpires get younger, they approach games like you guys do. I mean, the preparation that they put in and the review and going over their numbers, it really blew me away. And the guys that I talked to really took pride in their evaluations and their numbers and what they did as well. And it was really an eye-opener for me. It almost seemed like they were kind of like almost peers. I know they're a little bit older than you, but they're really attacking it the way that the younger side of baseball is right now.
Yeah, I think it goes along with the younger type of player who's like looking more, trying to learn some things from analytics, trying to learn some things from certain wearable data that you can gain from, whether it's a swing mechanics thing or, an Aura ring or a Whoop band for recovery and training, stuff like that. It's really good to see. Yeah, and I think, a veteran player may never have had those things available to him when he was younger. So not to say that they're set in their ways and that's not a good thing. If you're a veteran guy who's played for a while, you know what you need to do to play and improve and keep doing what you're doing. But I think for the younger generation, being able to utilize those tools, but I think the key is not getting overwhelmed by it. But it's really good to see that the younger generation umpires, I'm sure they're all into it, and it's great. I think it's really going to help. And I like seeing someone take pride in their job and doing everything they can to improve, and that fires me up.
All right, let's get back to you in present day right now. How are you using your time right now?
A lot of stretching, a lot of core exercises, a lot of walking. I've been to the grocery store one time. I stocked up on a whole bunch of stuff, not hoping to have to go back for at least another week, maybe, 5 to 7 days. My wife and I would just walk our dog a ton, keep our distance when we see people, and give them a friendly hello and keep going. And like I said, reading, meditation, staying in contact with friends, just trying to take this time to learn more. I think about myself, learn more about certain topics that are going on around the world, certain, like I said before, self-improvement stuff, whether it's sleep, recovery, whatever it may be, just trying to gain some knowledge in that and take advantage of this time.
Well, Mitch, I really, really appreciate you taking time with us today. I hope that we don't have to stop by and visit like this again. I hope that we see each other in person and in not too long. But if we don't, I would love to check in again and see how you guys are doing and just get some encouragement there. Those are great words that you have and great advice.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Hopefully it helps somebody. And I know a lot of these things we talked about has really helped me. So I know that it will definitely help other people.
Thanks, Mitch.
Yeah, thank you.